Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Binyamin Tjong-Alvares with economic and financial reports of the day. Coming up, rooftop gardening may provide some relief to Dheisheh camp dwellers. And wine storage kicks off in France. First, the headlines. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry pleaded to Congress to pass fast-track legislation for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, saying that failure to do so would benefit U.S. rivals. The U.S. Senate last Thursday resoundingly supported the 12-nation Pacific Trade Agreement, though Democrats initially voted against. Whereas senators are unlikely to reject the bill, heated debate is still expected in the Senate over amendments and later in the House of Representatives. Under fast track, the U.S. Congress can approve or reject trade agreements such as the TPP deal, but it cannot amend the contents of the pact.
The truth is, the only people we know, or I know, who would benefit from a decision by the United States not to participate in the TPP would be international competitors. And believe me, they would be delighted.
Japan's economy expanded at its fastest pace in a year in the first quarter, but growth was inflated by inventory as business investment lagged. The economy grew 2.4%, a second consecutive quarter of growth, Economics Minister Akira Amari said on Wednesday. Growth was supported by an increase in private sector demand, including consumer consumption, capital investment, and housing investment. An increase in exports thanks to a gradual recovery in overseas economies also boosted the local market. But capital expenditure remained weak as companies were cautious of spending their abundant cash. And possible stagnation in overseas economies continued to pose a threat to the world's third largest economy, Amari said.
The overseas risks include Greece and the European Union and how the relationship will stabilize, and China, where growth there seems to have weakened, and how that will stabilize. Those are the factors we need to be vigilant about.
Japanese airbag manufacturer Takata will expand its recall of potentially deadly airbags, making it the largest automotive recall in U.S. history. The recall involves passenger and driver-side airbag inflators in nearly 34 million vehicles made by 11 automakers. It expands on the 16.6 million vehicles called back for repairs for the same issue and increases the number of vehicles affected globally since 2008 to more than 53 million. Takata previously resisted expanding the recalls, saying that the defect cited by automakers was not officially recognized. Regulators link 6 deaths worldwide to defective Takata airbags, which exploded with too much force and sent shrapnel into the vehicles.
It will probably take years to get this completed, to the extent that it will be completed, and the likelihood is it will never be completed 100%.
Swiss banking giant UBS will pay $545 million in fines to settle a foreign exchange probe. UBS will plead guilty to manipulating benchmark interest rates and pay $203 million. The bank will also pay $342 million to the Federal Reserve and undertake remedial measures in connection with the foreign exchange misconduct. Wednesday's settlements bring UBS's bill for attempting to manipulate markets to more than $2.8 billion. UBS is the first of 5 banks, including Citigroup, JP Morgan, Barclays, and Royal Bank of Scotland, to enter pleas related to antitrust violations. Residents of the Dheisheh camp bordering Bethlehem recently got a rooftop garden program offering a chance to grow vegetables. But this noble effort to provide some relief does little to resolve their plight, as they remain cut off from the Palestinian Authority and dependent on UN aid.
In the Dheisheh refugee camp in the West Bank, just on the outskirts of Bethlehem, around 15,000 Palestinians live within a square kilometer. There, Karama, a local NGO, has kick-started a rooftop garden program, which it hopes will bring opportunities to the poverty-stricken neighborhood and keep alive a connection to land and agriculture, which they've been cut off from in the limited space.
When a Palestinian, or anybody else for that matter, starts to work the land, they become linked to the place they're working in.
Established in 1949 under the auspices of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, which focuses on Palestinian refugees in particular, a third of people are unemployed in Dheisheh and only 30% are able to support themselves through employment, as most residents cannot enter Israel to work and opportunities are limited in the West Bank. The project to make use of roof space for growing vegetables such as cucumbers and tomatoes acts as a relief and perhaps a step forward.
I wish I had a bigger rooftop to develop the project even more, but unfortunately, as you can see, every family has a separate rooftop. But we still hope to get our land back. That's the most important thing.
With high unemployment, aging infrastructure, and 2 schools to serve a young and growing population, rooftop gardening is aimed at helping to alleviate some of the economic hardships of life in Dheisheh refugee camp and at maintaining a connection to the land and professions that Palestinian residents here come from.
Moving on now from the Palestinian Authority to the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip for a look at renewable energy initiatives with Ayman Siksak in Financial Bazaar. Ayman.
Hi, Binyamin.
How's it going?
Good,
so
good.
Renewable energy, huh? What's the story here?
Yes, I'm here to tell you some good news, or hopefully, potentially some good news.
Yeah.
A brand new campaign called Empower Gaza, an online fundraising campaign, wants to bring solar panels to hospitals in Gaza. Now, this has been done before. There are hospitals in Gaza, 2 of them, that use solar panels with great success.
Right.
And we've seen this in conflict-torn areas before, in Haiti and Nepal. Solar panels do save the day in areas like this. And as you know, the situation in Gaza is such now that power outages are very frequent. And this is particularly hard for hospitals where maintaining healthcare and ICU rooms is very dependent.
Now, solar panels cost a lot of money, though. I mean, how much money are we talking about here?
Well, we're talking about $200,000 for each hospital. So the fundraising campaign that we're talking about today is only relevant for the first one. Their goal is $200,000 altogether.
Right.
And they have about over a month to continue raising this money. They're not there yet, but their ultimate goal is to bring solar panels to all 4 hospitals in Gaza that still don't have it. And that will cost about $1.2 million. So it's a big, ambitious goal to undertake.
Wait, so it's 200,000 for each hospital, but it's 1.2 million. Is one of them bigger than the others?
Yes, one of them is a big pediatric hospital in Gaza. And of course, this is one of the big focuses for the campaign. It's already been getting a lot of media attention around the world. Turkey and the UK and Canada are already covering the story. It's getting a lot of positive feedback. And we're seeing now that these doctors and policymakers, they come from all over the world who are behind this campaign. From Ontario in Canada, of course, from Gaza, and from other parts of the world. It's socially, too, a very interesting experiment of people coming together to reconstruct Gaza, if not from money that's coming from the world after the war, then through the public, the people who are donating to this cause.
Interesting. I mean, speaking of funding, I mean, this funding is not coming from funding that has been promised to Gaza. It's actually private funding coming from other sources.
Absolutely. It's coming from people who care about this cause. And one of the main things that they're promoting, the people behind this campaign, is that you can even help by sharing the story and by people just being aware of how much Gaza is in need of solar energy. Particularly in hospitals, this is also helping. So it's really a chance for anyone who cares about the cause to do something.
How is the funding here different from other funding initiatives that we've seen in Gaza?
Well, I think the main difference is that it's not politically motivated. We're not seeing, there's no goal here to support any side. Really, the only thing is to help people in need of this of the solar panel initiative. And one of the things that are really interesting is you can donate with any amount. So it can start with $10 and go up to however much you can. It doesn't need to be big, heavy funding from other countries.
Okay, well, Ayman Siksak, thanks for joining us on this very noble effort in getting power in Gaza.
Thank you,
Thank
Binyamin.
you. On a very different topic, British wine connoisseurs have long entrusted their best wines to private firms for safekeeping. Despite France's age-old association with good wines, the idea of storing wine was only recently adopted as a growing Asian clientele started driving up prices.
20 meters under the streets of a French capital, welcome to one of Paris's largest wine cellars. Nearly 1 million bottles are stocked here, including some of the world's finest wines. 100,000 euros for this pallet of Romanée Conti.
Here we're in a cellar where it's 13 degrees. The humidity and temperature are kept constant. Humidity is at 70%, which is perfect for the conservation of labels and corks.
Initially targeting professional clients like restaurants and wine cellars in need of space, the cellar is now also available to private customers. For less than 10 euros a month, clients can store up to 50 bottles.
This is the eye cave. The eye cave is reserved for private individuals. Here are nearly 100,000 bottles that we stock and look after.
In the city of Lyon, soaring property prices and a lack of private storage space has given rise to a booming market in wine storage. When David inherited over 1,000 bottles from his father, he turned to this wine cellar.
I didn't see myself stocking all this at home. There's temperature problems, and along with security issues, I didn't have what was needed to keep the wine properly. I had way too many bottles.
With growing demand from Asian markets, the value of top wines from Burgundy and Bordeaux has gone up remarkably in the past 5 years. This spike has meant demand for safe storage is on the rise too. A boon for wine cellars such as La Cave, already thinking of opening new facilities in Switzerland and along the Riviera in the south of France.
And now for a look at some other newsworthy reports in Media Watch. Daniel Roth.
How's it going?
Good. How's it going?
All right.
What newsworthy reports do you have for us today?
Well, we're going to go back to the beginning of the show, talk a little bit about the TPP for a moment, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This is an interesting story because there's the story, what's happening with building kind of agreement or disagreement around it. But then there's the underlying story, which is that actually nobody knows what's in it. Yes. There are people who know what's in it.
Highly classified,
but it's highly classified. This is something actually people don't know so much about these large-scale free trade agreements, is that they, most of the time, you're not allowed to talk about them outside of the bounds of the negotiators. So this is a piece in Politico written by a guy who's read it, who's essentially warning the public, the TPP's not good. Elizabeth Warren, Senator Elizabeth Warren, who's been out openly criticizing it as a job killer for American jobs, is really only benefiting corporations. This guy who's writing is saying, she's right, but I can't tell you why she's right because I can't talk about the content of the deal.
Takes away a little bit of, our ability to understand or believe what he has to say. No, I mean,
well, you're right. You can't, when you can't talk about why it's a poor deal, you also can't talk about why it's a good deal. So you have both sides of this, which are in the American political arena arguing about this, not really giving any information. The public debate is essentially absent. That's at the end of the day. The story here is that TPP is rolling forward or backward, we don't know, but we really don't know what's in it, and we can't really talk about it properly.
What we know is that the Democrats did a major switch from being against it to being for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's next? What other stories?
Next, we have a Democrat, speaking of the Democrats, a Democratic mayor of L.A. has just put through a vote of 14-1, raising the minimum wage in L.A. to $15 an hour. This is a huge boost to the minimum wage. It's going to happen between now and 2020. It's a big deal, and LA is really just one of a number of large American cities that are pushing forward. Right now, the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. You have cities like New York where it's $8.75 right now, and they're talking about boosting it to $15. In LA, they just passed this. In Seattle, they passed it. In DC, it's under discussion, if I'm not mistaken. Big cities across America are looking to kind of solve the issue of the growing gap between rich and poor by lifting up the poor a little bit with the $15 an hour, which is again, it's a big boost. Is it enough to live off? Is it enough to raise a family off of in a big city in America?
Will it be enough for, basically the next 5 years also until 2020 if prices don't get too inflated, I suppose?
Right, and it's a big question. A lot of the discussion in America again is about whether we should raise the minimum wage or not. Because
big companies may just raise their prices as well, which then obviously inflates prices, which then goes against the whole point of the
absolutely.
minimum wage being raised.
And there's also there's questions about what solutions are right for what companies, big companies, small companies, etc.
Thanks, Daniel Roth.
Thank you.
That is the end of our Economy Magazine for today. I'm Binyamin Tjong-Alvares. Thanks for watching, and do join us again tomorrow for more in the economy.